Be service-based business owner and you are looking to gain more clients, create more impact and more revenue in your business, tune in to Amplify Your Marketing Message with Campbell Rapin. Every week, we're going to take you through how to build an audience of buyers, mastering your marketing message, and making offers that convert consistently. We'll see you all on the inside. Welcome back. I am really excited to introduce you to our guest today because often in the role of mentorship, which both she and I play in, we always say chicken or egg, what comes first? Confidence or your action? So today we're going to be sitting down to talk about building confidence as a business owner. Please give a very warm welcome to my friend, Julie DeLucca-Collins. Super excited to have you here as our guest today.
Christine, it is such a pleasure to be here with you and your audience. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Julie and I have been playing together now for, I'm going to say more than a year, pretty close to a year.
Yeah, just
She's
about.
fabulous, guys. You're going to love what she's all about. But we want to talk about confidence. Like, let's just start right into the deep end, as you know I love to do. What is confidence when you're a business owner? How do you know you've got it or really don't?
Yeah, Christine, I love this question so much, specifically because not only is this relevant for individuals like you and I who are business owners, but also for anyone who may still be in a corporate career. Confidence is a very important part of success. And many people tend to say, well, you're so confident. And the question is, how do you gain it? And for me, it was by action. There's some traits. You could be an outgoing person. You can be someone that maybe has done a lot of things, and that creates a baseline level of confidence. But ultimately, for many entrepreneurs, that confidence is going to come from you taking the first step, even if you haven't done it before. If you remember when we learned to ride a bike, we gain the confidence to kind of not need the training wheels because we actually got out there and did the work. And this is something that as entrepreneurs, stop being passive with your action and start taking massive action.
I love this because I always tell my clients confidence is a learnable skill, one that you must
Mhm.
apply yourself to get to because it's really easy and very tempting to sit on the backside and say, yeah, but it's easy for you. And I
Yeah.
hear it time and time again. I said, I didn't get here where I am in my business
Mhm.
fully hatched. I
Yeah.
evolved. It was a mess. I grew. I had knives in my back. And there's lots of things I'd want do-overs for. But you talk about action. And
Mhm.
I think that that's a really great place to start because it is a learnable skill. But how do you start to practice? Like, what are the habits that you would guide somebody in simple, elegantly simple ways to start making
Yeah.
progress? Because it's not a destination, it's a journey.
Absolutely. And for me, I love the conversation around habits. I'm a tiny habits coach. And when I got my certification, I did it for selfish reasons. I knew that there was something broken in the system when it came to like, what am I supposed to set up as a habit? And how come I'm not successful at creating the habit? And one of the things that I found is that in the research by Dr. BJ Fogg, who is the author of the book Tiny Habits, but also he is the founder of the behavior lab at Stanford, that most of the habit books have been written based on his research, right? He talks about there's three things that need to be in place for you to create a new behavior. Number one is you need to have the ability to do it. You want motivation. Motivation comes first. Second is the ability to do the behavior. And last one is something that prompts you, that reminds you. Now, the fallacy in all of this is that most of us, when we're not confident, right? We don't feel motivated to do the work. We're scared. We're kind of putting off the thing. And I see it in my clients as well all the time. They're supposed to be doing the thing. And because they haven't done it, they're not proficient at it, it's new to them, they avoid it and they start to do something else. And they can never create that consistent action that gets them the traction and habits. So, what I start people with, and what I really love to teach, is creating something that you can find that evidence that you did it, even if it's small. And this is what Tiny Habits is about. When you create an action that is small, doable, that you can automate, and you pair it up with an existing behavior, right? That's your prompt, then, and you have the ability to do it, the next thing that happens is you begin to do it. Also, I want to tell you that many people don't know this, and habits are created not because of the consistent or the number of times that you do something. Research says that you create a habit when you feel good. So, for all of your listeners and viewers, if you're beating yourself up over something that you did or didn't do, you're not going to be having a really fun time in creating a new habit because your brain is like, oh, it's hard. It's not good. I'm terrible at it. And we really go down that behavior, that sabotaging behavior that many of us have. So, first, identify where is your ability? What is the prompt? What is the thing that's going to remind you to create the behavior? But also know what your aspiration is. Being able to understand. So, for instance, if you have a goal in your business and maybe you want to grow to producing X amount of products, if you're a based business, or you're looking to, maybe launch a course or whatever it might be, understand what is it that you need to have as a vision, then you create a goal, and then you create the tactics or the steps to achieve that goal, and then create that daily action. And that's really where we start.
I think it's interesting to talk about this concept of evidence because our brains are really fascinating things. And not always, of course, is the evidence our lived experience. It can
Mhm.
be something that you look to a peer, you look somewhere in the marketplace and you say, if it's possible for them, it is possible for me. And
Mhm.
I love the fact that you have to say, I feel good in the evolution because
Right.
the first time you do anything, I always say embrace the suck, it'll only get better.
Yes. I
And that
love
in
that.
itself is what I celebrate. That goes, God, that was god awful. But you know what? I will never be that bad again. And that's
That's
something
right.
to celebrate. And it starts to feel like movement. And as
Mhm.
you all have heard many times here on Amplify Your Marketing Message, movement is the key because it is what builds momentum. And it isn't linear. And I want to talk about that for a second because you said something quite interesting there, which is we get in our own way and we sabotage ourselves.
Mhm.
What does sabotage look like? How do we recognize it and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't be playing into that
Yes.
train of thought that's going to stall the movement?
Well, sabotage is something that is very normal, number one. I want to normalize that. And I think that for a lot of people, we think, oh, why did I do that? Why could I keep doing the thing I don't want to do? Number one, let's normalize it. And actually, before we normalize it, let's notice it. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times we go through life with this white noise and we're not noticing in all of the different areas or ways in which we sabotage ourselves. So number one, let's start to notice what is it the our patterns, what are the things that you end up doing? Do you end up maybe starting your day wanting to get XYZ done and then you sort of go into social media and go down the rabbit hole and something else, right? Notice it. Then next, you want to normalize it. You want to normalize that I am human. This is going to happen. I'm easily distractible. This is a hard thing that I want to accomplish. So therefore, I'm going to, find something else that takes me away from the discomfort of doing the new behavior. Once you notice it and you normalize it, then neutralize whatever thought is coming up for you. Neutralize it because that's the programming that we have. All of us have an internal judge. That internal judge speaks to us very differently, but that judge was created by us as we were growing up to sort of protect us from the environment. Even the happiest of childhoods is going to create, maybe you sat in your crib crying for a little longer, or maybe you were told, hey, don't do it like that, right? And parents didn't mean to be mean or abuse you, and they weren't, but you immediately become that pleaser, a pleaser, because that's the judge that says, oh, if you don't put people first and do it for them first, you're not going to get attention, right? So that judge has all these tapes that are running in the background. Just like your computer runs programs in the background, so does our mind. So it's important to normalize, neutralize, notice it. And here's where the magic happens. Figure out when you're speaking to yourself and telling yourself you're not good enough, when you missed the action, right? Maybe you needed to get into action, but you started to sidetrack yourself and you notice that you're telling yourself, oh, I can't believe you did that. Then at that moment, when you are noticing all this stuff, go to the next best step. All right, I just noticed that I was speaking to myself poorly and that I didn't get started as soon as I wanted to. And this is normal. I'm human. This happens. Then your next best step, okay, I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to work on my task for the next 10 minutes. These are the things that are going to help you overcome, and then you start to create that evidence that you did it, that you tried, that you're working at it. And that builds a little bit more of confidence. You're building, confidence is growing every time you decide to practice. And it's all about practicing.
I think what's so important is to recognize you get to reboot your operating system,
That's right.
because when you do normalize it, and sometimes we all have our blind spots. Welcome to the human race. And
That's
the
right.
key is saying, I want to give myself permission to reboot, to evolve, to recognize patterns. And I want to invite all of you listening along here with Amplify Your Marketing Message to document a little bit your processes and be open to feedback, because
Mhm,
sometimes we don't know how long that habit has been around, because it's just like our favorite piece of clothing and it's
mhm.
just part of the fabric of who our lives are. And yet, when you realize, and one of the things I'm doing in my business, which is fascinating, I'm both interested and horrified by the experience. I'm documenting the 5 years. And
Oh,
it's
so good.
amazing when you look back and think, that's where I was. That's the
Hmm.
habit that was shifting. That
Yeah.
is a pattern. Ooh, I see it now, because this is the same thing. And what words keep coming up? Because you said that's that unconscious or
Mhm.
subliminal stuff that's really going on in your brain. You're saying, what are you focusing on? And then give yourself permission to say, is that helpful? Keep doing it, build a new habit. Or it's not a habit that is particularly effective, productive, and in your best interest. So reboot. Like a computer,
Mhm.
you can reboot this.
That's
And
right.
I would love to know if you have any tip that you personally do yourself to help you be aware of the
Yeah.
patterns that are serving you, as a business owner yourself, are continuing to evolve.
Absolutely. And I love that you are creating evidence for your 5 years. I think that this is the one thing that many people are afraid to look at. There's a concept I learned from a book called The Gap and the Gain. And this is really, really important. It's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Harding. I highly recommend it. They're incredible in some of these concepts, but I I really adopted them into my own personal business. And when I started to do that, I saw the difference. The gap in the gain, the premise is for as long as you're focusing on, you started here and you want to be here, and you see, oh, that's a big gap. Look at all the places I still have to go. I can't believe I'm not there yet. Oh my goodness. Take, for example, one of the dreams, the visions, goals that I have in my business is that eventually we are going to retire my husband. That's a big audacious goal. It's a vision. It's coming, right? But if I start to think about, wow, I know it's going to take a long time. We have to replace his salary. We have to have enough to be comfortable. All these other things need to happen. And I'm focusing on all the stuff that is yet to come. That's a big gap. However, if I focus on the gain, wow, look at where we started. I barely made any money. There's a month that I came, when I started my business, I thought, oh, everyone's going to hire me. I'm a former senior executive, C suite. Who wouldn't want me? Well, guess what? There were a lot of things that I needed to learn. There are a lot of things that I needed to put in place. And that first month, it was abysmal, right?
Mhm.
However, there were some incredible lessons, and if I look back over the course of the last 3 years, there's evidence. Focusing on that evidence makes me feel good, makes me feel proud, and I see how far I've come. I remember someone said, "Well, you gotta send emails," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we had someone in my company do emails," and when I needed to do emails, I logged into, I think it was Mailchimp, and I was lost.
Mhm.
Like, "What? I don't understand. Like, what is a segment? What is a this? And what? I don't get it." Now, I have a thriving practice of sending emails in my business, but that was because it took time to get there. I had to take a long time to learn it, to fail at it, to figure out how does it is done. And again, that is really one of the practices that I have is one, staying in the gain, noticing the gain and celebrating the gains. And yes, there is a focus on where I want to be in the future. And I go back and I continually check my progress, but not live in the gap of that progress. And
Oh,
that's what I want to encourage people to do.
I love that. Don't live in the gap and don't beat yourself up in that gap because that can be
Yeah.
absolutely the thing that stalls and starts the self sabotage to come back into play. I love that
Mhm.
you're also looking at the progress because let us both normalize. I have had months, so have you, where you don't have growth. There's
Yeah.
months where you don't move forward. There
Right.
are months when the best laid plans get rocky. But what
Mhm.
you're hearing from us both is stay the course.
Yeah.
Confidence comes through the action that said, I'm seeing the progress and I'm taking time equally to celebrate it. And I want to ask you before I move to the last question, how do you celebrate progress personally? What do you
Oh
do?
my gosh, I love this question. I am a big celebrator. Number one is I track my progress on a weekly basis, right? I go back and I look at my week and I have a CEO date with myself in on Mondays typically and say, okay, these are the things that I'm looking to accomplish. This is what I'm going to do. When I celebrate at the end of the week, I go back and evaluate, did I do those things? And by the way, I do it from a neutral spot when I
Mm.
look at what I accomplished or did not accomplish for the week.
Which means
Neutral,
no judgment of self,
no
peeps.
judgment. Yes. And then when I do have some markers that I can say, oh, this is great. This is an accomplishment. I typically, well, because I love self-care, I put some money aside and then I go to the spa or I
I see a
reward
spa date in our
myself.
future.
Spa days. And
That's one
by
of
the
my
way,
treats too.
by the way, I had a great couple weeks and I was launching a big summit and I did not get to do any I would say big self-care. So today, this afternoon, because I'm an entrepreneur, I can take some time off. I went for a pedicure, I went for a manicure, and I went to and guess what? My phone was in the car. Why? Because I wanted to reconnect with me, being in the present, being in the moment. And that's a celebration that reminded me, hey, you accomplished all these things you set out to do for the month of August. So now that we're moving on to September, here's the celebration. So celebrating like that is really big for me. Giving myself time off, intentional margin, but also telling other people, hey, this is where I am today. Celebrate with me. When you have a community that celebrates with you, it makes it a lot sweeter to celebrate.
I love this. And I think this is something we all, every woman, every man listening to this podcast, if you're on the entrepreneurial journey, I will guarantee you're not celebrating enough the
Mm,
progress. And that is ultimately how you will look back and say, look how far I've come. So, one thing I love to ask every business owner who I invite in to be a guest here on Amplify Your Marketing Messages, what's working right now? You're in momentum. You've come in. I know since you and I first met, we've just both been on these very big growth trajectories. But what are you attributing to the momentum that you have right now?
well, my momentum really comes from something I already I shared. Number one, my habits. Number two, the way that I celebrate them and track my progress. Number three, the other thing that has really helped me in the momentum is having connection. Connection is the word. I don't know if you can see it back there. It's my word for the year in 2022. And it was something that is so aligned with my values that I thought, you know what, this is not just the word for the year. This is another value that I have. Having the connection has allowed me to continue to collaborate with incredible individuals like you, like Ella, some other podcasters and business owners that are phenomenal at what they do. And really, when we view individuals as collaborators, as promotional partners, as people that we do life with, as opposed to seeing competition, we go a lot further. There's always going to be someone that does something very similar than you. However, when you collaborate, there's enough room for everyone. And that is one of the things that has helped me continue to get to the level that I am today.
I love it. Co-creation is so powerful. You don't even
Yeah.
know what's possible. And you can't even aspire yet to the confidence to say, yeah, I'm going to go do that
That's
until
right.
you're around amazing people. So you are one of these amazing people, Julie. Tell
Thank
us
you.
how your audience can find us, how they connect to you, how they learn
Hmm.
more about these habits that you help people knock out of the park, because confidence is a learned habit. How do they find you?
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me, Christine. I love the work that you're doing. You're a very intentional entrepreneur, and your message is really resonating not only with me, but for so many other people. If people want to connect with me, I'm Julie DeLucca-Collins on all of the platforms. But the best way, and you're going to get some of my best stuff, is go to goconfidentlycoaching.com/quick links. My resources are there on habits. My resources are there on some of the sabotaging behaviors. If you want to take the quiz and figure out how do you sabotage yourself, you have a quiz there. And again, my best resources are yours for the taking at goconfidentlycoaching.com/quick links.
Julie, it is an absolute pleasure always to share space with you. Julie and I are inviting you, our audience, on Amplify Your Marketing Message to go confidently. Thank you for being our guest. I want to know, come celebrate with us. Let us know how you're progressing and the actions you're taking to get past that self-sabotage, because everything you want is on the other side of fear. We'll see you on our next episode.
Bye, everybody.
That's a wrap on another amazing episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message with me, your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss another great episode. And be sure to visit christinecampbellrapin.com/podcast to get a free resource on how to master your marketing message. We'll see you all on our next episode.